From the beginning of time, man has always had a pursuit of the best quality of life possible. That quality of life is not possible without resources. The form of resources we have accumulated has changed over time from cowrie shells, state-controlled money, precious metals, real estate, and stocks and bonds. Over the past 100 years, the world has been dominated by the US dollar and its reserves. But everything that has a beginning also has an end. A new financial revolution is upon us with the emergence of a digital economy. The way we earn, spend, and accumulate resources is fundamentally changing. A new asset has appeared that the wealthy have overlooked. Bitcoin has become the best performing asset of the past decade by far. With only 21 million ever in existence, there are more millionaires and billionaires in the world today than there are Bitcoin. Just by holding 0.25 Bitcoin today will put you in the top 1% asset holders in the world in the next 5 to 10 years. If you had invested $100,000 in Bitcoin in 2013, today it will be worth more than $15 million. Bitcoin billionaire Raoul Pal says, Bitcoin's performance is so dominant and so all-encompassing that it is going to suck in every single asset narrative dry and spit it out. Never before in my career have I seen a trade so dominant that holding any other assets makes almost no sense. This is not an industry you can afford to ignore. If you want to remain in business, then you must adapt. Are you offering services in Bitcoin? Are you accepting payments with digital currencies? Have you adopted blockchain technology? Blockbuster Video at one point was the most dominant video service in the world. They had the opportunity to be part of Netflix, but they ignored the changing technology. Where is Blockbuster today? Where will you be tomorrow?
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Early Morning Crypto Talks. This is Bitcoin Brandon from Los Angeles, California. I'm the founder and CEO of Ivy League Crypto Academy, ILCO. Go ahead and type, ILCA. Go ahead and type in the chat box where you are listening in from. As a disclaimer, I am not a licensed financial advisor to be giving financial advice. I read the news, give my opinion, share suggestion for entertainment and educational and training purposes only. And it is up to you to make your own informed, intelligent decision on which direction you want to move into. All right, so we are now at the end of the week, first full week of April. Time is moving by very, very, very fast. So I hope you guys have had a productive week. There is a lot taking place in the crypto, not just the crypto space, but all around the world right now in the news, a lot. And it's so much, even in the crypto space, it's hard for me to keep up. And I try to want to make sure what's some of the biggest news that's taking place in the world right now. And many people, there's a lot of distractions going on. Many people think it's the arraignment of Donald Trump, and it's not. That's a distraction. The one of the biggest news is, if those of you that are not in our inner circle, so you haven't been plugged in like we are, is the Finland joining NATO. Now Russia is sitting with another 800 miles of NATO on their border. That is huge, huge, huge news that is kind of buried in the West. Another major news that the West is not paying attention to is also the de-dollarization effort around the world of our United States dollar, where we have a number of nations that is actively moving away from the US dollar as a world's reserve currency. And really spearheaded by the BRICS nations. And then for the very first time, the BRICS nations' GDP is bigger than the G7. This is huge news. So in the United States, we have a lot of people that are, we're distracted right now. We have a lot of internal conflict going on, which of course is important for us to see, pay attention to. But when it comes to each and every one of you individuals and our money in our pocketbook, there's a lot more happening that we have to pay attention to that's going to impact not just the crypto markets, but the entire financial market as a whole. So that's why we do what we do. And I still extended an invitation for those of you. This is Saturday, so our crypto talk is open. I do it at least once a week for the public to give you guys a good example or an idea of what we cover and what you're missing out on. But you definitely want to be in our inner circle, not to miss this information. And we have a lot to cover. Thursday, actually, the last inner circle, I had about 6 articles that I wasn't even able to touch because we covered how to read the charts and how to use vulture service. But no, I didn't even touch those, and I have to move on. Unfortunately, I have to move on because there's a lot of information from this morning. And so leading the way, we're going to be talking about, do we now know who Satoshi Nakamoto is? We're also going to be talking about, there's a new presidential candidate on the Democratic Party, Robert Kennedy Jr., the son of Robert Kennedy. And I think he's talking about that the government can ban, seize Bitcoin, and that CBDCs could lead to financial slavery and political tyranny. Financial slavery and political tyranny. Now, Robert Kennedy Jr. is a Democrat, but he's saying the same thing as one of the second leading presidential nominee for the Republican Party, Ron DeSantis, is saying the same thing. So I'm waiting to see at what point does crypto start to get politicized. But right now, it seems to be bipartisan on both sides. But at some point, it will get politicized when all the lobbyists really get in there. And then we're also going to talk about another Phui Tai. He's a candidate in Thailand. He's promising to give every citizen of Thailand $300 in digital currency if he's elected. So now he's using that as a bribe. Hey, elect me, you get $300. So that's happening. Then we got ChatGPT. Well, Peter Schiff, the gold bug, Peter Schiff, he's been against crypto since day one. He says that ChatGPT is pretty intelligent. Why? He said because it did not recommend Bitcoin. ChatGPT did make a prediction, though. I think Michael Pendleton, if you remember, what did it predict the price of Bitcoin to be this summer? I think we're watching that. I think it was $50,000, which I disagree with. I don't see Bitcoin going $50,000 anytime soon. But ChatGPT said, I think that was that number. Then we've got another one here about the role of biometrics in the metaverse. Biometrics. Then I've got more CBDC news. CBDCs will lead to absolute government control. I need to put that one back to back with the other one there. And then finally, we're in tax season now. A study claims that 99.5% of crypto investors did not pay taxes in 2022. I say this till I'm blue on the face. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Don't get caught up in, oh, well, I don't have to really report my taxes. The IRS will. It's not a matter of if. They will. They're bigger than you. They have more resources than you, and they want their money. They will go back on you years. I don't want to see you hiding out in South Africa somewhere. Where a lot of people are brought down in America, criminal activity, not because of real criminal activity they might have done, but really because of the taxes. You're messing with, Uncle Sam's money. Pay your taxes. Report it. But this is staggering. I didn't realize this. 99.5% of crypto investors did not pay taxes in 2022? Well, I haven't read this article. This is interesting. Either they did not or did they not report it. So we'll read that article and come up with it. So let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to share screen now, and we're going to look at the crypto market now and see what's going on. Share screen. All right, should be popping up any seconds. There we go. All right, so since most of you, well, I got to go by week to week. So the last time we did this publicly was a week ago. We'll look at the last 7 days. But those of you in the inner circle, how many of you have been practicing since we did on Thursday how to read the charts and break everything down and letting it tell you a story? I told you, like, when I look at this, I'm not good with numbers, but when I look at this, this is telling me a story, like a book. So the crypto market cap is at 1.23 trillion, down 0.1% in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin dominance is at 44.1%. Ethereum is at 18.4%. Bitcoin is at 28,000. Oh, wow. Look at this. Flatline all week. So it hasn't moved all week. So knowing this, the rest of the market pretty much should be at the same level. But we got to look for the outliers to see which ones are not. So while Bitcoin is flatline, Ethereum is still up 4.7% on the week. BNB is down 1.6. Ripple is down 6.7, but it is still above 50 cents. Now, we're keeping an eye on this Ripple case. I predict if Ripple wins their case, this immediately will jump up to probably about $1.50 to maybe close to $2. And then it will come back down to about $1.10, $1.20. When the next bull run happens, now I already have a prediction on when the next crypto bull run will happen, but I only share that with the inner circle. So those of you here on Saturday, you got to be in our inner circle to hear that information. We do that Monday through Thursday. That's privileged information from my own expertise. But I have a pretty good idea. I know when the next crypto bull run is going to happen. And this will get to at least its previous all-time high, which was $3.40. But I believe that this could actually get to $10 a coin. When you see Bitcoin go over $100,000 a coin, this will go over $10 a coin, Ripple, if they win their lawsuit. If they lose, this is going to drop all the way down to probably about 20 cents. And Ripple's going to go into the appeal. And it'll bounce around between 20 to 25 cents. Worst case, maybe down to 15 cents. So that's just my own personal prediction. That doesn't mean I'm right. Okay. That's why I always give out a disclaimer. Doesn't mean I'm right. That's my prediction. Let's see. Oh, here's an outlier. All right. So this is what I was talking about when we talked about how to read the charts. Which one doesn't look like all the others? Boom. Dogecoin. Dogecoin is at 15.1% up on the week. Why? Well, because our good friend Elon Musk was doing some tweets again and making pictures of Dogecoin, and everybody jumped all on it. So this is an outlier right here. 15.1%. Let's see, who else? Shiba Inu was up 3.8%. See, Avalanche is up 5%. Toncoin is up 9%. Now, isn't that interesting? This one seems to be skyrocketing. It's now down to the 22 top token by market cap, 3.3 billion. This would be one I need to do more research on and look up. So let me make a note of this. Watch for Toncoin. Ton. Current price is $2.27. All right, let's see the best performers over the last week. Injective. I'm not too familiar with this one either. It's up 21.2% on the week. Casper Network, 16.2. Dogecoin, 15.1. Brax, Radix, Thorchain, Aave, 13%. Lido, Dow, 12.7. Curve, CRV's up 11%. Okay, that's pretty good. The worst tokens over the past week. Stacks, down 11.4%. Arbitrum, down 9.7%. Whitebit token down 6.8%, Ripple's down 6.7%, Conflux, Immutable X, Quant, Algorand, Singularity Net, that's the AI token. Those of us in our inner circle as well, we talked about building a AI portfolio. You've got a DeFi, you've got a NFT, you've got a metaverse, but you definitely want to have an AI portfolio, and we showed you how to look up the top AI tokens on the chart. We did that in the inner circle, so you guys know what to do with that. Multiverse down 2.2. All right, so let's get into some of the news. Satoshi Nakamoto. Is it Steve Jobs? You guys see this report? I've been hearing about it all throughout the week, and it's only been picking up steam now, which is what making me want to talk about it more. I might have to adjust. I've got a lesson in Bitcoin 101 that's titled Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? I don't have Steve Jobs on that list. In fact, I've never had him on the list. I've always had, at best, Bill Gates. Bill Gates has the knowledge, the resources, the expertise to pull something like this off. So I didn't expect that Steve Jobs. But let's take a read of this. I have not read any of the articles about this. I've only seen the headline. So let's see here. Apple hiding a Bitcoin manifesto in Macs is fueling theories that Steve Jobs was Satoshi Nakamoto, the crypto's mysterious inventor. Does anybody, it's been a while, I studied Steve Jobs, his politics, because like it or not, crypto getting started was a political movement of sorts, a financial political statement, really by the libertarians. Technologist Andy Bao wrote this week that he discovered a PDF of the original Bitcoin white paper on his Mac. The revelation fueled theories connecting Steve Jobs to the mysterious author of the paper, Satoshi Nakamoto. Bio said Apple appears to have hid the Bitcoin document in every copy of Mac OS since Mojave in 2018. Well, wait a second. Why 2008? What year, can somebody tell me off the top of their head, what year did Steve Jobs pass away? So they didn't do this in 2009. This is 2018. So this is my first full year in crypto. No, second year. I got into 2016. In an April 5th blog post, technologist Andy Bao said he accidentally, it was 2011, Steve Jobs, so 2011, I know I know he was working up to the end, but how active was he in 2008 and 2009? How active, do you guys remember? Was he really active? Because I know he went into recluse at the end. But could he have put this all together just a few years? Because he was diagnosed and he was fighting fighting for years, so he knew that his end was coming. Would he create something like this as his gift to the world, so to speak? I don't know. An April 5th blog post, technologist Andy Bai said he accidentally stumbled upon a copy of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin white paper on his Mac computer with the revelation fueling wild theories across the internet so Steve Jobs was like me, because I've made it public. I don't talk politics. I try not to as much as I possibly can. But I am fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Interesting here. So yeah, he kind of fits the mold. So anyways, let's see, Apple co-founder. While trying to fix my computer today, I discovered that a PDF copy of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin white paper apparently shipped every copy of Mac OS since Mojave in 2018. His post prompted Twitter. Now, who would have the power to do that? No, every company, they got their programmers. Could a programmer just, mess it around and put their own little seed in there, little Easter egg? Every video game developer does it. They got their own little Easter eggs. Or was it really coming from the top? Was it Steve Ballmer that was his also co-founder? But who would have had the say-so to approve of that? His post prompted Twitter users to share screenshots of the same manifesto stored on their Macs. If you guys have Macs, look at it, look it up. Look it up to see if you find the Bitcoin white paper in your Mac. Insider also tells, I'm not a Mac person. I've never been an Apple person. I'm always Android and everything. So his post prompted Twitter users to share screenshots of the same manifesto. Insider also tested out Bai's instructions and found the white paper on the latest version of Mac. So they did it themselves too. The white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, was published in 2008. In it, the author lays out the framework for the underlying mechanisms that power Bitcoin and enable transactions without a third-party intermediary like a bank or financial institution. If I could go back, if I had to say so, I wouldn't have titled it a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. I would have made it more along the lines of technology as the 2.0 of the internet. But I know this right here, everybody thinks, Bitcoin is all about the financial revolution. And really, that's not what the biggest contribution of this technology is. Not some digital cash. It is the technology. But anyways, that's just me. Bai's revelation fueled fresh speculation that Nakamoto, the mysterious Bitcoin inventor, who has never been identified, may have been Steve Jobs, the late co-founder of Apple and tech visionary. Was Steve Jobs actually Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin? So Lark Davis, he's a Bitcoin investor and blogger with 1.1 million followers. Plus, Satoshi Nakamoto disappeared in December 2010. And then Jobs passed. So Jobs passed October 2011. Nakamoto disappeared December 2010. That's why I'm asking, when was it that Steve Jobs disappeared himself and was away from the spotlight? And because I know his health really took a turn. He was really, really frail. So that could make sense. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm just looking at this timeline. The timelines fit. Now, I did say this in the last 5-day challenge, that if Satoshi Nakamoto was a person, that he has passed away. I said that before. If it's a government, I still think it's the CIA or the British government. But if it's an individual, he's already passed away. And I'm confident of that because I'm watching guys like Craig Wright. There are individuals who also might have a good idea on who Satoshi Nakamoto is, or they know he's passed away. Or you won't have Craig Wright running around claiming that he's Satoshi Nakamoto because he knows he can't, the real Satoshi ain't going to come out and say it's not him. All right, I got another question though. And I got to look, it's in my lesson. There's a gentleman by the name of Dorian S. Nakamoto. Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, who people claim was him. He lives in California. When everyone was claiming that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, Satoshi did come back and make a statement and say, I am not Dorian Nakamoto. But I got to remember, when was that? Was that 2012 when that happened? Because if that's the case, well, Steve Jobs passed away in October of 2011. You know what I can do? This is not difficult. As I love doing these crypto talks, we find stuff live and then we can pull it up. Let's see, Coinbase, Bitcoin 101, the birth of Bitcoin. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? So let's do a little bit in my own lessons here. Dorian S. Nakamoto, 70 years old. Okay. 2 weeks later, Dorian issued a statement. He did not create it, invent it. Okay. Dorian Nakamoto's claim was corroborated by the actual Bitcoin creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, a day later, with Satoshi's username mysteriously surfacing on an online forum post. I am not Dorian Nakamoto. What year was this? Man, 2014. So if this is corroborated, so it couldn't have been Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs passed in 2011. Satoshi comes back in 2014 with this post. I am not Dorian Nakamoto. Satoshi's username mysteriously surfacing in an online forum. But was that really Satoshi Nakamoto? The mysteries. Interesting. But yeah, this is good enough that I need to include it into that lesson. So while Nakamoto vanished from the internet around the same time Jobs died, the white paper appeared on Mac computers 7 years after the tech icon's death, making it impossible for him to be the one who inserted the document into the OS. Somebody did. Other users chimed in across Twitter, with some agreeing while others remained skeptical. While unusual, the presence of the Bitcoin white paper on Mac computers isn't evidence of anything. As for Jobs himself, while he is credited as the creative force behind many of Apple's most iconic products, he wasn't an expert programmer, according to co-founder Steve. That was Steve Wozniak. I said Ballmer. That's just Microsoft. Steve Wozniak. He wasn't an expert programmer. Others have also noted that for Jobs to develop the iPhone around the same time as the world's most popular digital asset is more reason to be skeptical. The real identity of Nakamoto has never been revealed, and some believe Nakamoto was actually a group of people, given the complexity of Bitcoin's code. The inventor stated that they started writing the code for Bitcoin in 2007, and the network launched in 2009. The mysterious figure disappeared from online appearances on December 12, 2010. Some estimate that crypto wallets associated with the pseudonym hold more than 1.1 million Bitcoin tokens. When the token peaked in November of 2021 at about $68,000, those holdings would have been worth roughly $73 billion, putting Nakamoto among the top 15 richest people in the world at the time. Meanwhile, other Twitter users floated the idea that the white paper was simply a Bitcoin enthusiast working at Apple who slipped the document in, that's what I said, as an Easter egg to locate the white paper, and then it gives you all a description on how to do it. So if you've got a Mac, you can open it up and find it there. That's very, very interesting. Someone said this, what? That could have been Dorian trying to take himself out of the picture. That's possible. But the mystery remains. But I like this. I'm gonna add this to the lesson next time I do an update of Bitcoin 101. All right, I need to save that one for later. Now, we got a new presidential candidate in the race who wants to go up against Joe Biden, Robert Kennedy Jr. But he says government could seize Bitcoin. CBDCs could lead to financial slavery, political tyranny. Really, Robert? Really? He doesn't have a shot in hell, but let's make the primary season interesting. Presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has issued a warning regarding the Federal Reserve's new FedNow system. That too, I need to study. The FedNow system. Just for the record, I am not pro CBDC. I am an admirer of the technology and the use cases for it. I just don't believe in the goodness of man and that technology will be used in the worst way possible if it could be. And I don't trust the government to use this benevolently. I agree with Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz on this. Who thought they'd ever hear me say that? So presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What is that, Kenny? What if it really doesn't mean anything and they just put it there as a marketing ploy to get people to talk about Mac? Hey, we got my CMO James Hendricks listening. Is that a good marketing ploy? He says sounds like something James would do. Hey, get everybody talking about it, huh? Everybody running to their Mac to look it up. What about people go and buy a new Mac? Interesting. So presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. issued a warning regarding the Federal Reserve's new FedNow system and the potential risk of central bank digital currencies leading to financial slavery and political tyranny. He additionally warned, we should not be blind to the obvious danger that this is the first step in banning and seizing Bitcoin, as the Treasury did with gold 90 years ago. Well, that's not possible. They can ban it, but they can't seize it. They don't control it to seize it that way. They can seize citizens' wallets if you give them the wallet. But it's just like with physical cash. If I were to bury in the ground somewhere and write a treasure map, the government can't see they get my treasure map. If I minimize my private key, the government can't get it unless they give it up. But they can make it difficult. They can block on-ramps and off-ramps. They can say you can't use US dollar to purchase crypto or make that illegal offense, so that if even use US dollars to buy crypto, that's a criminal act. They can do all that stuff. But that's not my concern about that at all. I'm more worried about CBDCs. So Robert F. Kennedy warns now on CBDCs. Lawyer and vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. criticized the Federal Reserve's FedNow system, central bank digital currencies, in a tweet on Wednesday. day he filed paperwork to run for president in 2024. He is President John F. Kennedy's nephew and U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy's son. Fed just announced it will introduce its FedNow central bank digital currency in July. You guys understand how fast this is coming. Everything's going to change very quickly. Just look at AI. ChatGPT came out in November last year, and it's taken, they're like, we got to pause the system. It's moving too fast. We're creating Skynet. Terminator's going to be coming to get us soon. But this technology is moving at the speed of lightning right now. But the CBDCs is not 10 years away. This is July. CBDCs grease the slippery slope to financial slavery and political tyranny. FedNow is a Federal Reserve's, you know what I should do? What if I did a special crypto talk on just the FedNow, so we can dive into this and really understand what it is. Would you guys like that if I did that? Should I do that just for the ILCA community? Make it public, or better yet, I'll do it for the ILCA community who has registered for our 5-day challenge. That doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is register. Yeah, I'll do it that way. Today is Saturday. No, this is Easter weekend. My wife's going to kill me. So, you know what? Probably next week, next Saturday evening, I will do a special. Yeah, I'll do that. Next Saturday night, I'll do a special about the FedNow, because this is happening right around the corner. But it will not be public. The public can get access to it at no cost if they register for the next 5-day challenge that's coming up this month. And Casa, do me a favor and type wait, you don't have to do that. I got it right here. So those of you who are brand new or listen to us for the first time, all you have to do is go to, see it scrolling at the bottom, ilcachallenge.com. ilcachallenge.com. There's no cost to register, and you will be invited to our private Facebook group. And next Saturday, I will be doing a streaming. I'll stream it live in that group, and we're going to talk about FedNow. And if you've got friends, family, business partners, you're an influencer, and you think your community needs to know about this, because they do, this is going to affect every single man, woman, and child in America, then you're going to want to let them register as well to get this information. Nobody else is talking about it on social media that I see, or that's going to cover and teach it the way I will. All right, so I'm going to make a note of that. And next Saturday is actually, that's the 15th already? Good Lord, it's moving fast. 15th, FedNow Talk. Called that, FedNow Talk. Okay. So FedNow is the Federal Reserve's real-time gross settlement system for instant payments. However, the Fed CBDC development is separate from FedNow, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell said last month that the, oh, wait a second. Yeah, next Saturday, that's also IRS Day, right? The 15th. Attack on America. Yeah, that'll be fitting. I'll still do it. All right. However, the Fed CBDC development is separate from FedNow, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell said last month that the central bank CBDC work is still in the early stages of experimentation. While cash transactions are anonymous, a CBDC will allow the government to survey all our private financial affairs. The central bank will have the power to enforce dollar limits on our transactions, restricting where you can send money, where you can spend it, and when money expires. Kennedy's tweaking. What do you mean when money expires? A CBDC tied to digital ID and social credit score will allow the government to freeze your assets or limit your spending to approved vendors if you fail to comply with arbitrary diktats, i.e. vaccine mandates. He has a point. All right, let me put it to you. Well, those of you who have been on the Crypto Storm is Coming series, and when I did Banks versus DeFi, we talked about where I said that nothing is a coincidence. Everything is planned or allowed to happen. And the assaults on some of the lower, smaller regional banks, that at the end of this crisis, we're going to end up having only maybe 4 or 5 major banks in America. All the smaller banks are going to be gone, or they're going to go away. And if there is some form of a financial crash where your money is useless, and we covered how that could happen, the many different ways that could happen. We've already covered that. If it were to happen and there's a run on the bank, the government is already putting together the solution. Whether they caused the problem in the first place or they allowed the problem to happen, they will already have a solution for you. And that solution is the CBDC. I showed you guys this. I live in the state of California. All of a sudden, I don't even qualify for this, but they send me this. This is a state of California Visa debit card. They call it middle class tax refund. I don't get tax refunds. All right. I know everybody, oh, I only get my tax refund. As a business owner, I don't remember the last time I ever got tax refunds. But because I'm in the crypto space or an entrepreneur, when I report my taxes, most of my taxes come in the form of what they consider capital gains and not earned income. So on paper, they think what I earned last year is one thing as opposed to what I really earned. So they sent this, and the whole point of this is that if they want to send any type of tax credits, they don't send a check anymore. They don't even do direct deposit into your bank, which was the easiest thing to do. Instead, they say, we're going to give you our own debit card system, and we're going to put money on that card. Now, you can go to the ATM and pull cash out and use it if you want. You can transfer it to your bank if you want, but it's in their control. I believe the entire COVID thing was a test run. It was an experiment to see, can we pull it off? If we have everybody remote learning and working from home, what's going to happen with the economy? How much of a impact will it make? Can we get money in people's hands? Because one thing is, if you feel you have your back against the wall and you need your money, you're willing to give up, trade your security for, or trade some of your freedoms for security. You're willing to give up some basic rights because you want to be able to buy milk and bread and eggs at the grocery store. So if there's a full-on panic and you can't get your money out of the bank, the government swoops in and says, hey, don't worry. We created the CBDC so that we'll honor 50% of the money in your bank. They're not going to honor 100%. We'll honor 50% of your money in the bank, and we're going to go to a complete digital system because there's a cash shortage anyway. We're going to get rid of the dollar physically, and you will accept it. Why? Because you have no choice, and you want to go buy milk and bread. And you think, well, the government's saving me. But only this time, we also read the Federal Reserve's white paper last year, where they are making moves to, they don't want the banks as an intermediary between the Federal Reserve and the people. They want to have direct access to the people, where for the first time ever, you will have a direct account with the Federal Reserve. That's not a government agency, that's private. Just because it's got the name federal in there, there's a lot happening to those of you that are paying attention. There's a lot going on that most people don't realize. And if the CBDC is brought through willingly by the people to save them, you just gave up every form of freedom you have. Because without resources, you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You can't travel. If they can control your money, they control your freedom. And everybody will be a slave. I'm not even reading, I'm going to finish reading this, but I'm just telling you guys from what I've been seeing, it doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. I just know how things play out, how this is going to work. Because I'm thinking, if I was them, this is what I would do. And how is this different than what China and Russia is doing right now? Because they're already doing it. And America is setting themselves up to do the same exact thing. Think about it right now. We're already in a digital economy. If you have a bank account and you are late on your child support payments, the government can freeze your accounts. They can garnish your wages. They already have the power to do that. This is ultimate, the complete next step. I know my grandfather would be like, oh, hell no. He didn't believe in banks anyway. He was put my money into the mattress type of guy. All right. Uh-oh. You guys don't see my screen anymore. What happened here? Okay, hold on. Share screen. All right, come on, share screen. There we go. All right, so let me finish here. While cash transactions are anonymous, a CBDC will allow the government to survey all our private financial affairs. You guys see this? The central bank will have the power to enforce dollar limits. What if they say, based on your credit score, we see you're trying to go buy a big screen TV. That's not responsible. We're not allowing that transaction to go through because you owe creditors. And then they can dictate what you buy. Really? It's not sharing screen. Here it is. Yeah, there we go. Really? You guys understand this? By the time most people get it, it's going to be too late. So Kennedy tweets, a CBDC. Well, let's go down here. The Fed will initially limit its CBDC to intrabank transactions. That's how it starts. James said, OpenAI was created in 2015. AI technology has been around for a long time. I mean, the military's been using that type of stuff. But now it's being commercialized. And by the time now that it's commercialized, it is taken off like a rock. We should not be blind to the obvious danger that this is the first step in banning and seizing, but that this one thing doesn't have to do with the other. See, he's thinking of, well, the Treasury, seized gold 90 years ago, but that's not the same as far as Bitcoin. Everybody willingly, well, was it really willingly? They turned in their gold for a paper-backed note, well, gold-backed paper note, because they still believed that their gold is in play. That's not going to be the case with Bitcoin. Unless the government says, we're seizing your Bitcoin and we're replacing it with a CBDC to represent your Bitcoin. That's not how this is going to play out. So he has it wrong here, but he's kind of down the right line. Watch as governments, which never let a good crisis go to waste, that's true, use COVID-19 and the banking crisis to usher in a new wave of CBDCs as a safe haven from germ-laden paper currencies. I agree with that as well, or as protection against bank runs. I agree. Everything he said there, I agree with. And I've already, those of you in our ILCA community, you've heard me say this for more than a few years now. Numerous voices have cautioned against the federal government launching a CBDC, including U.S. Representative Tom Emmer, who introduced the CBDC Anti-Surveillance Act in February. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz recently submitted a bill to prohibit the Federal Reserve from developing a direct-to-consumer CBDC. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis put forth a proposal in March to outlaw the use of CBDC as money in his state. This is going to be an interesting fight because I already told you guys the decision has already been made by the people who have real power. It's not a matter of if this happens, it's a matter of when. This is going to happen, in my opinion. How be put there, I just have different ideas and theories. This is going to happen because there's a bigger thing at play here. The thing at play is our competitors or enemies on the globe, which is the new BRICS nations. All nations are now choosing sides. It's like right before World War II all over again. Access and the allies. You've got the BRICS and the G7. Now we've got nations that are saying we're no longer going to use petrodollar. We're no longer going to do transactions in dollar. We're going to use the Chinese money, or we're going to use ruble. How in the world do we put Russia on death-defying sanctions, the biggest sanctions in any country, and their currency still outperform the dollar? Is that possible? Because Vladimir Putin was preparing for a decade. I told you guys this when I first started to learn about what is this crypto thing, and I was looking up blockchain technology. There was two that popped up in front of me that got my attention. The first was Bill Gates said in 2014 that Bitcoin can't be stopped. In a reverse, every time he publicly spoke about Bitcoin, he was along the Warren Buffett line that Bitcoin's not that, but they love the technology. But the other one was Vladimir Putin. And what did Vladimir Putin say? He did a quote at the time. This was 2016 when I saw this. I knew nothing about Bitcoin and crypto. All I knew is I bought some Bitcoin and I made some money off of it. That's all I knew. And I knew people I knew were becoming millionaires. But he said, the Stone Age didn't end due to the lack of stones. Look around, there's still stones on the ground. The Stone Age ended due to the introduction of better technology. And whatever nation adopts this new technology first and applies it will be the new world superpower, and those that don't will be living underneath the boots of those that do. So when I saw that, if you understand Vladimir Putin, what is his ultimate goal? He is a KGB era guy. He feels ultimately humiliated that the Soviet Union collapsed without the firing of a shot. The West, the United States, we just spend more money than they did. They ran out of money. And then the whole Soviet Union collapsed, leaving all the satellite states. You got to understand, why is there war in Ukraine? You got to know the history of the region. I'm still shocked that I'm 6% Ukrainian. Go figure, freaking DNA test. But if you don't know the history, then none of this is going to make sense. Why is Ukraine in play right now? But what is Vladimir Putin's ultimate goal? He's getting older. He knows he doesn't have that much time left ahead of him. His lifelong goal was to bring the Soviet Union back to prominence. You got to marginalize the West, doesn't want the West on his doorstep. So the war in Ukraine backfired now that Finland now gave NATO 800 miles of border right on Russia's border, right next to them. But he wants to bring back the Soviet Union. Well, to do that, you got to get rid of the United States. Well, you're not going to beat the United States militarily. As I tell this to Marnita all the time, and I say this to all of you guys, like it or not, the United States has the biggest and baddest military this planet has ever seen. Period. It is not my opinion. It is a fact. Our GDP and our military budget is more than the rest of the world's combined. That's a fact. Nobody can touch us there. But the second thing we have is our economy. Since World War II, the United States helped to rebuild the world because we have the biggest, stablest economy. We weren't bombed into submission in World War II like North Africa, the Middle East, Europe, Asia, China. Half of China was ran over by the Japanese. And then the Japanese had 2 nukes or atom bombs dropped on them. The world was in shambles after World War II. The United States, it was the rise of the US. And instead of doing what the British Empire did with physically colonizing everybody, we used our money. And if anybody acted out of line, we cut the spigot off. We cut the spigot off. Now, if you put why do other countries or their citizens or the country don't like America? Is because in their mind, their leaders were American puppets. We financed their campaigns. We made sure people won in other countries that were looking out for the United States interests. Okay, you guys understand that? So then you have the Iranian Revolution. Why? They got rid of their democratic leadership that was put in place by America. Iran was our ally when Russia decided to go to war against Afghanistan. So we had Iran right there to counter them. The Iranian people overthrew that, what they considered the American puppet government, and brought in a whole religious system. What happened in China after World War II? China was our allies. We saved them from Japan and Russia. So how did we become competitors like that? Well, the Chinese had a revolution as well that was backed by the Russians. The Communist Party overthrew the Democrats, the Democratic-led party in China. And that democracy, that government fled to Taiwan, the island. Why do you think there's conflict between China and Taiwan? Taiwan is part of China. But the government succeeded in Taiwan, and the United States is still supporting them. But now it is a communist nation. So even China, you've got to understand the people, the culture. One thing about Americans, we can't see past our own, America, our own patriotism. We can't put our feet in other people's shoes to see the world through their eyes, because we think that it's all about us anyway. Screw everybody else. But if you actually take the time to have empathy for another culture, one culture's one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. If you look at it from their point of view, you can understand why they do the things they do and what we need to do to counter that. The Chinese have an ancient philosophy called all under heaven. Their entire history is about uniting all Chinese people. China used to be 7 kingdoms, and they had it at one point. And since World War II, it's been divided now. Hong Kong and Taiwan is not completely under China's control, and they're not going to rest until that happens. They also have a deep-seated hatred for Japan, and the United States is protecting them, Japan from them. They haven't forgotten what Japan did. And in American history, we don't learn. This is the only thing about American history. If you go through history, we learn about World War II, but we learn it from the eyeballs of America. The Asians call it the Pacific War. We don't learn in school about what really happened between the Japanese and the Chinese and what the Japanese did. One of the largest migrations in modern history. 2 of them, the partition in India, when the Pakistan was created, and you had the Muslims and the what's the Indian religion? I can't remember. Anyways, they split that migration, but the Chinese migrated halfway across their continent to get away from Japan and the atrocities. Everybody thinks about Holocaust, but there's nothing compared to what the Japanese did to the Chinese. So they haven't forgotten that. It was only 80, 90 years ago. But America took over Japan, so China can't enact their revenge. So there's a lot of deep-seated hatred things going on there. So how do they beat the United States? take away our money? Who is the biggest? You guys type this in the chat box. Why is the US dollar so strong even though we're trillions of dollars in debt? What nations out there? What's the number one nation that's bought the most US debt? Type it in the chat box. And what is going to happen to our currency when they stop doing that? What happens if they decide not to use the US dollar anymore? What happens if they create their own currency and they use it backed by gold? So we're running around talking about we've got the US dollar backed by trust of the US government, and that it's been the dominant form since World War II. And they've got currency that's actually backed by gold. Now, the United States is also aware of this, because at the same time, type in the chat box, which country is has the biggest stockpile of gold? You might find it interesting. Which country has the biggest stockpile of gold, and which country is buying the most US debt? So China is the biggest biggest purchaser of US debt. James is right on that. But the United States has the biggest stockpile of gold. There was a policy when I worked in DC. I first heard about it. I worked for Henrietta Turnquist in Atlanta, Georgia, when she was a representative. And it was the 1996 election. I was an alternate, not juror, delegate for the Chicago Democratic primary. And then I worked for Congressman Jose Serrano in Washington, D.C. And I sat down with Patrick Kennedy and J.C. Watts. But I learned something back then that they were talking about, and they were talking about the United States is already making moves to prepare for the potential loss of the US dollar. That even though you might see things publicly, behind the scenes they're making moves behind the scenes. And one of the things that they're doing is this whole CBDC thing. If the banks collapse and there's a run on the banks and the government comes in with the CBDCs, the people are going to say, how can we trust the CBDCs when we can't even trust the dollars that you guys were in charge of? The US government can turn around and say, well, no, our CBDCs is backed by gold. We've got the gold stockpile. You can trust it. You don't need to trust in the government. You can trust in gold. But one of the things that I learned when I was in DC is that one of the US policy is not use our own resources, but use up the rest of the world's resources as a form of control. And once all of their resources is used up, they're going to need to come to us. So while we see Africa has all these great reserves in the Middle East and South America, the United States and Alaska sits on the largest oil reserves and natural resources on the planet that we don't use. It's like, what are we waiting for? What are they planning for? That's something that's an unspoken thing that's not talked about. But the world is choosing sides right now. Saudi Arabia is really giving the middle finger to the Biden administration that they never did with the Trump, Obama, and Clinton and Bush, especially the Bushes. The Bushes were very close to the royal family. But they're choosing sides now, and they're not choosing us. Russia and China is making some power moves right now. All right, let me read this last part. Numerous voices have cautioned against the federal government launching a CBDC, including U.S. Representative Tom Emmer, who introduced the CBDC Anti-Surveillance Act in February, Ted Cruz, and Ron DeSantis. All right, next one up here. Food, no, I want to, since we're still on CBDCs, I want to go with this one. CBDCs will lead to absolute government control. From China to Canada, it's clear that governments around the world are salivating at the prospect of introducing currencies they can manipulate hassle-free. Arguing over the prudence and implications of issuing a central bank digital currency in the United States has seemingly become one of the Washington's favorite icebreakers. As Congress considers the question, it is critical that Americans clearly understand and soberly consider the immense power a CBDC could grant governments, as well as the unacceptable risk of that power's potential abuse. In March, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis introduced a proposal to ban CBDC use in his state, arguing that total monetary control by the federal government is dangerous for American society. I agree. Shortly after, the White House released its economic report in which it argued in favor of a CBDC as a mechanism for advancing human rights, democratic values, and privacy. The fact that many countries and monetary systems have begun to develop and issue their own CBDCs colors the domestic debate as well. While no technology is inherently evil, the consequences of various technologies' potential misuse varies considerably. So too, a CBDC is at heart merely a tool, not only good or bad on its own, but the downside risk of a CBDC's misuse is so immense, the concept should be rejected. I agree. The idea of completely seizing absolute control over people's ability to engage in commerce via a CBDC should be anathema to free society. Anathema, I think I said that right. Even if the prospect of that power use seems outlandish today, that is true. But in the United States, at least, it's not outlandish. It would be naive to ignore America's long developing and increasingly pervasive financial surveillance, as well as the possibility of a CBDC being used for the same purpose. You want to know how you can kill this entire thing right now? This is all you got to say. It takes one politician to come out, and I'm surprised Ted Cruz or Ron DeSantis didn't say this, but all they have to say is go out on national TV and say, I oppose CBDC because I don't want the government to be able to monitor what I'm spending my money on. Okay, that's not the key yet. Well, watch where I'm going with this. What if the government decides that they think I purchased too many guns and I decide to go in and I want to buy another gun, and they say, well, the government thinks you've met your quota on how many bullets and guns you can own, so we're not allowing your transaction to go through. What? You're preventing me from buying ammo and guns with my own money? Watch how fast this entire CBDC movement crashes when you get the National Rifle Association, the NRA, on this, that they feel threatened that they're going to get their guns taken away, or they can't buy any new guns. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Proponents of a CBDC argue that it could advance financial inclusion and improve the efficiency of payments. That's true. They're right. But the key issues here are what potential costs this might come with, and whether or not there are alternatives available to accomplish the same objectives with fewer risks. Luckily, in this case, alternatives are numerous and extraordinarily varied. Ideas range from decentralized finance protocols to postal banks. Critically, these alternatives can accomplish many of the core benefits that proponents of the CBDC point to, while avoiding the downside risk of creating a system that, if abused, could undermine individual rights in a way few technologies ever could. That is true. A CBDC could not only grant a government total unchecked surveillance into someone's financial life, down to every cent spent, but also allow a government to, for example, prohibit an individual from engaging in commerce altogether, or literally delete the assets of some disfavored individual or group of individuals. No government should have that power accessible via a few keyboard strokes. That is true. So since I use an example against the guns and the IRS that the Republicans will scream hell no to, let me do the opposite side for those on the liberal side. What if the government says, well, now that you're using CBDCs, we don't like abortion. Therefore, the next time you go in for an abortion, we don't allow you to be able to pay for it. What? Through an executive order of the president before it even goes to the Supreme Court. What if they say, we have an idea that you are committing a crime, therefore we're going to freeze your account while we undergo investigation. You're not proven guilty yet, but while the investigation happens, your account is frozen. You can't buy anything outside of groceries. They will have the power to dictate that. What recourse do you have? You can't say, well, I'll just pull my money out and go to a different bank. That's not possible. What if they say, well, wow, we're looking at your tax report right now. We see you file for unemployment, but why are you trying to buy a PlayStation 5? We're not allowing that to go through. What? I hope this is making sense. Examples leveraging the relative to a CBDC-based system. Decentralized financial system we rely on today also warrant caution. In 2022, Chinese citizens who shared pictures of a banner condemning Chinese Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping lost access to their WeChat accounts. WeChat is a do-everything app that is commonly used as a method of payment. So if you guys want to see a cashless society, go to China. They don't carry cash. They use like WeChat and their phone to do everything for payments. It's still digital. But what if they take it away? Which means suspended users were unable to accomplish basic tasks, such as calling taxis or purchasing groceries. Similarly, the Canadian government last year used emergency powers to order banks to freeze the accounts of people participating in protests the government deemed unlawful. That was a trucker protest. Regardless of whether one believes that invoking such potent powers was justified in either particular case, these instances must give pause to anyone who is or expects to ever potentially be on the wrong side of a government. This is what I was saying the other day about your belief. And just because you believe something to be right, that does not mean you should justify a wrong that is taking place because it will benefit your side. Because at one point, that same wrong will be used against you in the future. It's a slippery slope you got to go on. The law is the law. So at one point, the government might deem you on the wrong side of the law and use what you were championing against you. Americans across the political and ideological spectrum should find common cause in rejecting the issuance of a CBDC. Whether one is concerned about a CBDC's power to grant the government absolute control over extremely personal life choices, or because one is concerned about the federal government targeting disfavored individuals or groups writ large. We are at a dangerous point in America today where both sides of the political spectrum are accusing the other side of weaponizing the government. That is a very, very dangerous road and path to go down. It is also where you have the end of democracy. Same thing happened in the Roman Empire. And the United States, up until now, has been doing a pretty good job of the separations of powers to an extent, and being able to hold accountable when anyone crosses the line. But lines have been crossed lately. And once the genie is out of the bottle, there's no going back. So whether you believe something is done because it's the right thing to do, but it's the wrong way of doing it or not, that's only a temporary thing for you, because the pendulum swings. And I don't think it is any, I think we can factually say this. This is not a political statement for or against, but I think we can factually state, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, he will go scorched earth after all of his perceived enemies with as much power as the government will allow. I think it's safe to say that, whether you like him or not. And then what happens the day when he is not in power? The other side gets in power. What do you think they're going to do? Playing this game back and forth. Very, very, very dangerous. So those with power, if you've got a CBDC and the government says, we're freezing your account, we don't like you, we don't like your politics, we don't like your religion, we don't like the color of your skin, we don't like the language you speak, we don't like that you visited a mosque, we don't like that you bought guns. It's not, unfortunately in America, everyone's looking at things from a party line. No, this is an existential threat to everybody. Americans across the political and ideological spectrum should find common cause. I just said that. In rejecting the issuance of the CBDC. Whether one is concerned about the CBDC's power to grant the government absolute control over extremely personal life choices, or because one is concerned about the federal government targeting disfavored individuals or groups. A completely centralized monetary system almost begs to be abused, and it will be abused. It will. The mere possibility of such a powerful tool being used for unlawful, immoral, or restrictive reasons on a societal scale means that the idea of issuing one warrants extreme suspicion, if not outright rejection. Now, there has been the laws that's being posed to say, if there is a CBDC, these are the things it cannot do. It cannot just take over somebody's account. It cannot dictate what you can and cannot buy. It cannot. They can put that in there as a stopgap, like amendments to the Constitution. But those laws can also be overturned if a different party comes in play and says, no. For national security reasons, we need to change that. How many of you guys watched a series called 24? Jack Bauer. I've seen every 3 or 4 years or so, I go through a binge on watching every season of it again. Jack Bauer. And the whole premise is, we're always at a national security threat, whether it's somebody's going to shoot nukes at us or a terrorist attack. And Jack has to operate in the gray area. He can't play by the rules, because if he plays by the rules, a nuke may blow up in the United States. So he's constantly got to break the rules to stop the terrorist attack or anything like that. It's a very good series to watch if you want to see that conflict. All right, that is it for that one. Wow, I go off on a tangent. I got 10 more minutes. I got to busy day today. We got a WCL call at the top of the hour. And those of you in that community, you don't want to miss that call. I think they're having me talk to say a lot of stuff. All right, so that's in 30 minutes. CBDCs. Let's see, man, I'm just so much. Let's get to Chat GPT real quick. Chat GPT, pretty intelligent, did not recommend Bitcoin, Peter Schiff tweets. Economist Peter Schiff praised the artificial intelligence of the Chat GPT assistant for omitting Bitcoin in a suggested recession-proof portfolio. The longtime gold proponent commented on a report claiming that Chat GPT has recommended massive allocations in precious metals. Schiff cites study alleging Chat GPT favors gold and cash as investments in recession. Rigorous crypto opponent Peter Schiff took to social media to highlight a recent report revealing that OpenAI's ChatGPT has not considered Bitcoin as an option when prompted to advise about a recession-resistant investment portfolio, linking to an article about the test in a tweet on Thursday. All right. I don't want to read all this. I just know what the premise of this is. Gold and other precious metals in the form of physical and paper-backed gold and silver assets, including gold ETFs and mining stocks, got 20%. This figure far exceeds the number proposed by prominent gold bug wealth managers such as Ray Dalio and Peter Schiff. Schiff recently predicted that a bull market for gold will lead to even higher prices than currently observed. His statements came after the most popular precious metal broke the $2,000 mark earlier this week. All right. And yes, the United States is the biggest stockpile of gold in the world right now, and they're doing that for a reason. But when was the last time we were audited? Yeah, I think the last audit happened before I was born, the early 70s. The role of biometrics in, oh yeah, this one, I want this one. The role of biometrics in the metaverse. So what is the metaverse? Let me see first, how long is this article? Dang it. Because I want to take my time on this. I might have to come back to this on Inner Circle for Monday. Oh yeah, let's get into the taxes. So we're in tax season. Study claims 99.5% of crypto investors did not pay taxes in 2022. Finland and Australia had the highest proportion of tax-paying crypto investors, while the United States ranked 10th on the list. Swedish crypto tax firm Divly has released a new report that estimates that only 0.53% of crypto investors globally, okay, globally now, I was thinking that this is just states, paid tax on their crypto in 2022. However, tax experts cast doubt on the figures methodology. Published on April 5th, the Divly report came up with the estimate after analyzing the relationship between the number of people who declared cryptocurrency in their terms and the search volume for crypto tax-related keywords in various countries. It also used the number of crypto holders in each country, according to Statista's Global Cryptocurrency Report in its captions. The report estimates that has the highest proportion of crypto investors who paid required taxes on crypto in 2022 at 4.9%, with Australia following closely behind 3.65%. The United States ranked on the list with an estimated 1.62% of cryptos paying taxes, while India, Indonesia, and the Philippines have the lowest rates of tax-paying crypto investors, 0.07%, 0.04%, and 0.3% respectively. Oh, okay. Country tax payment rate. So Finland is number one, the brand new NATO country. Then Australia, Austria, Germany, United. But look at this. It's only still 2%. Japan, United States, only 1.62% of people in the U.S. All right, you guys don't need to answer this question in the chat box. But how many of you did or did not report your taxes in crypto last year? I've been saying it, and I said to him blue in the face. Pay your taxes in crypto. You don't want to have them come down on you. But this is crazy. So the number one country is only 4%. Wow. The methodology used to arrive at estimates is questionable. The report itself qualifies the results by noting that search volume data may not accurately reflect the actual number of crypto taxpayers. That makes sense, as not everyone who pays taxes searches for crypto tax-related information online. That is true. Another assumption in the methodology was that the number of searches related to crypto tax reporting did not vary across different countries. Additionally, it cautioned that there could be a potential bias towards countries with greater internet accessibility and more accurate search volume data. This question here, if you didn't take out anything, you don't have anything to claim, correct? As a disclaimer, I am not a licensed financial advisor nor tax expert. I do not give tax advice. You got to go back to your tax expert to ask that question. I have an opinion. I can say this. One part of the tax code is if you move from crypto back into fiat, that's a taxable event. If you use the government's money to buy crypto, the government is saying you are buying an asset or capital gains. That is being reported because you are using their money. Even if you're just holding the crypto, you need to report that you did so. Because whatever agency that you use to buy it, they're reporting it. Outside of that, I'm not saying nothing else when it comes to crypto and taxes because I am not qualified to do so. You got to ask your own experts about that. All I can say is don't skip your taxes, pay your taxes. But definitely, the moment you sell your crypto back into fiat dollars, that is definitely a taxable event. So it is likely that 99.5% is not reflective of countries that have specific crypto tax guidelines and strict compliance requirements, such as the USA, Canada, Australia, and India. Yeah, all right, I don't need to read all of this nuts. Okay, so what did I have left? The role of biometrics, I'm going to do that one on Monday. Phoi Thai candidate promises digital currency airdrop. So he's promising to give the citizens $300 if he gets elected. The Phoi Thai candidate running for Prime Minister of Thailand position, Shrita Thavisin, has promised that every citizen in the country will receive 10,000 Thai, which is $300 in digital currency, if he wins the general election in May. However, a minister within the Prime Minister's office in Thailand is concerned and has explained that the proposed airdrop could pose major challenges with specific implications. What's that? Well, on Wednesday, the candidate of Prime Minister declared that if his party wins the general election, the government will airdrop 10,000 baht in digital currency to every citizen who is 16 years old or older. The Bangkok Post was the first to report on the story after it was revealed on Wednesday. Thailand wouldn't be the only government to airdrop digital currency to its citizens, as the government of El Salvador airdropped $30 worth of Bitcoin to citizens who were using the Shivo wallet. According to the Bangkok Post, Pheu Thai's party initiative is aimed at attracting crypto assets and blockchain innovation to Thailand. However, the free money must be spent within a 4-kilometer community radius within 6 months. What? What does that mean? So they're putting a dictate on if you receive their government money, you can only spend it in certain areas. Isn't that interesting? Weren't we just talking about that about CBDC? Here's another version of it. They are dictating, if you have money, I should be able to spend my money on whatever the hell I want to. I got to suffer the consequences if I make bad choices, decisions with my money. But that's my decision to make, not the government. Here, the government's going to give them money, but you can only use it within 4 kilometers of the community radius and within 6 months. That if I was a business and my competitor is in that 4-kilometer radius, but mine is right outside of it, that's like the government endorsing businesses in this area. But this isn't the United States. Denacorn, a minister in the Prime Minister's office, is concerned about the proposed airdrop and wants more details. He also noted that creating a digital currency would be a major challenge with implications for Thailand's entire financial system. Wan Shuron also shared an opinion from Priyaphat, a second-year university student, who questioned where the funds for the airdrop would come from. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, helicopter money or one-time direct stimulus payments to citizens has become a norm in several countries. That's going to be your downfall. A number of politicians across the world have proposed giving stimulus airdrops to citizens, and some have even supported schemes like universal basic income. In June 2023, Thailand's government created a stimulus package worth 140 billion, 4.5 billion US dollars, with a good portion of the funds being allocated for one-time direct stimulus payments. That's interesting. I'm going to pay attention to see how this plays out. All right, well, that brings us to the end of Crypto Talk this morning. I hope you guys learned something new. As always,